Hello everyone, today is 27th of July. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. Friends, in today's video, we will be taking up all the articles from the Hindu newspaper, the relevant ones, as well as the important articles from the Indian Express Explained section and from the Mint newspaper. By the way guys, if you like our initiative, please do hit the like button and please do subscribe to our channel. Now, first of all, let's take the overview of the articles that we are taking up today. Guys, on to the explained section. The article with respect to the Telangana temple, already into the much details we have seen yesterday, and the same thing has been repeated. If you have not seen yesterday's newspaper analysis, you can watch. Very good article. Then guys, this 84 course parikrama, not very much important. Guys, going to the Mint newspaper, here the SEBI's big bang reform has been mentioned with respect to the mutual fund. We'll see what it is. Then guys, coming to the Hindu newspaper, so this is the page number 1. Guys, the political issues, the resignation of Yedurappa, etc. You don't need to go into this because it is not important for our examination. Then guys, the page number 2 is the city page. Here very much important things are not there, but guys, this particular article which talks about the separate public toilets for transgenders, it might be used as a case study. We will see how we can utilize it. Then guys, moving to the other pages, nothing very much important. The opening of cinema, etc. has been mentioned. Then guys, further moving, here we can see that the Puri had become the first city to provide the quality drinking water. Then how it will be important in ease of living, we'll see it. Then guys, further, nothing very much important here. Then guys, here the Thane's sanctuary, that is a Thane Creek Flamingo Sanctuary, has been proposed as the Ramsar site, but it has not been finalized. When it will happen, we will see it. Then guys, further moving on to the editorial page, this particular article talks about India's option in Afghanistan. We will see comprehensively what are the matters. Then guys, the Immigration Bill 2021 has been talked about. Within GS paper number 2, diaspora is an important section. There we can utilize it. Then guys, this particular article talks about the recent Himachal Pradesh disaster. So in GS paper number 3, we'll see what it is important. Then guys, the resignation of the Yedurappa, what it means for BJP, all these things are there. Then guys, next page also, the orange counter saffron, not very much important article. However guys, this particular article talks about some of the colonial legacies in India. We'll see it. Then guys, moving to the next page, UP gets a big chunk of the Clean Ganga fund. So guys, with respect to the evaluation of government schemes in GS paper number 2, we will see this thing. Then guys, the other articles, not very much important. Fine. Then moving to the next page. So guys, here we can see that India's stand with respect to the Taliban again has been talked about. So guys, we will see what has been there. Then guys, into this particular thing, 2 new bills have been proposed into the Lok Sabha. Guys, however, nothing very much important is there. Then guys, moving to the next page. So again, the evolving issues have been there. This particular article talks about the ecological problem in Himachal. We will see it. Then guys, this article talks about the problem that is being faced by the monuments. We will see, and a parliamentary standing committee report recommendation also we'll see here. Then guys, moving to the next world's page. Here we can see that into the Tunisia, a kind of a new political crisis had come. We'll see this thing. Then guys, the other articles, not very much important, just the evolving issues are there. Then guys, this particular article shows that a stalemate between the USA and China is continuing, and this is because of the perceptions which are different between the US and China. Then guys, moving to the next page, onto the business page, guys, nothing very much important is there with respect to the corporate profits, etc. The things have been mentioned, nothing very much important. And guys, next comes is the sports page. So onto the sports page also, nothing very much important is there. So guys, these are all the important newspaper article overview, and now let's discuss them in detail. Now friends, starting up with the today's GS quote. So today we will be taking a quote from Benjamin Disraeli, the British statesman as well as the former Prime Minister of the UK. He had defined the real meaning of the power. He says, power has only one duty, that is to secure the social welfare of the people. Guys, most of the time we understood power into the negative connotation, where the power is understood with a kind of an unaccounted authority, and that authority most of the times comes with the coercion. However, such negative connotation of power is never desirable into a democracy. In a democracy, what is desirable is the positive connotation of power, where it means a kind of a rightful authority with a rightful accountability, and the direction of that authority is to bring more social justice, is to bring more peace, is to bring more capabilities for the people. Guys, such an understanding of the power we can utilize into the essays related to it, as well as into the GS paper number 2, as well as into the GS paper number 4. So guys, please do utilize it into your answers. And now let's take the newspaper analysis one by one. Now friends, taking up the first article. So this article has been taken up from the Indian Express explained section, and it will be important for GS paper number 2, where the topics related to the poverty has been talked about, as well as in GS paper number 3 with respect to the government's policies in order to improve the employment opportunities. So in both the papers it will be important. Now guys, this particular article talks about the government's most recent periodic labor force survey that government has now announced. Moreover guys, the findings of this particular survey you can directly quote into your answers. Now, before going into this particular survey, guys, first of all, the most basic thing, the periodic labor force survey, it is released by the NSO, that is the National Statistical Office. Earlier, guys, there were the two organizations, that is the CSO, that is the Central Statistics Organization, and the NSSO, that is the National Sample Survey Organization. Now, guys, both the CSO and NSSO, they have been merged under the NSO. So now the periodic labor force survey is carried by the NSO, number one thing. Now guys, before going into this periodic labor force survey, there are some of the basic concepts that I would like to talk, because they will be very much helpful in understanding this news better, and secondly, directly they can be asked into your prelims examination or into the GS paper 3 also, they could be important. Number one comes the labor force participation rate, LFPR. Now guys, according to the ILO, that is the International Labour Organization, labor force participation rate means the proportion of a country's population which is either involved into the working or it is actively seeking the work. So the number of people who are involved or who are participating into an economy, they will be called as the labor force participation rate. Suppose there are 100 people into the country, and out of the 100 people, 40 people are either they are actively working or they are looking for work. So this is the labor force participation rate. The definition has been taken from the ILO. Now guys, most of the times we see that the labor force participation rate is important because it depicts the labor supply that a country can provide. When we talk about India, most of the time we say that India enjoys a demographic sweet spot. Why? Because most of our population is into the young age, and because they are into the young age, they can provide the better labor supply, and therefore Indian economy is most conducive in for the manufacturing sectors, for those kind of industries which are labor intensive. When the labor's quantity will be more, the labor number one will be comparatively cheap, and secondly, the scope of skilled labor can also be provided. Guys, it has been said that by the United Nations Population Fund that 2020 to 2040 will be the golden window for India, because guys, we will be having one of the most youngest population. So guys, the labor force participation rate in absolute numbers as well as in terms of proportion, it needs to be high if we want to attract the manufacturing industries. Second concept guys comes is the unemployment rate. Now what is unemployment rate? See, into the labor force participation rate, we have seen that there are certain people who are either working or seeking for the work, but at the end of the day, every person will not be getting the work. So guys, out of these people, the ones who are not getting the work, they are classified as the unemployed people, and their proportion is defined as the unemployment rate. Fine. Now guys, when we talk about the trends for the India, guys, into the context of India, the labor force participation rate, it has been less than the 40%. At the same time, the global average, it stands around 60%, and into the countries such as China, the labor force participation rate stands at the 76%. So guys, number one, here only comes the problem. The problem comes is this, that we are such a big country in terms of population, but very less number of people are willing to work, or actually they are working. The reason into this direction is this, that government had number one failed to provide or to develop the quality jobs, and into that capacity people are either not employed or they are not even coming for the jobs. Take the example of large number of people who are preparing for the UPSC. Many of them, they are not willing to work because they believe that the level of qualifications they have, they are not the suitable jobs. So guys, the labor force participation rate in India is less. At the same time, the unemployment rate into the India is very much high. And guys, when we talk about just 2 years back, when the periodic labor force survey of 2017 and 18 was announced, at that point of time it was found that into the India we have faced the 45 years of record unemployment, and that particular thing created a lot of controversy also. Now, but guys, after seeing all these particular concepts, now coming to the present periodic labor force survey. So guys, this year's labor force survey which has come, it is very much surprising. How? Let's see the number and we will get it. Now guys, according to the periodic labor force survey of this particular year, which has been announced, that is the 2019-20, we can see here that the labor force participation rate, it has increased when compared to the last years. For example, 18-19 you can see it was 37.5, and 17-18 you can see it is 36.9%. And at the same time, the unemployment rate, it has went down. You can see that just 4.8% compared to earlier 5.8% and 6.1%. Now, the biggest question comes that 2019-20 was a year where the economic growth was not very much good, and towards the end, even the lockdown and the pandemic got started. So how into the time of pandemic, the unemployment rate has increased? Now guys, this particular thing has happened because of the methodology. Now, what is this methodology? We'll understand this. Now guys, see, whenever the labor basically the survey with respect to the labor etc are done by the NSO, it can do it by the two of the methods. First is the usual status, and the second is the current weekly status. Okay, usual status, again I'll repeat, and the second is the current weekly status, CWS. Now guys, into the usual status, what we do, we go to a person and ask the person that whether into the last 365 days in 1 year, whether you were sufficiently employed or not. And the current weekly status, into this we ask the person that within the last 7 days, whether you were employed or not. And on to that particular basis, we will identify that okay, how many people were actually unemployed, and therefore the unemployed rate will be calculated. Now guys, what has happened? First of all, it has been provided that the NSO, it has relied onto the usual status, that is they had asked the people the data with respect to the last 1 year. Now guys, into this particular capacity, it has been provided that this particular method is not very much good. Neither the Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy, which gives the economic data, it accepts it. Moreover, it is not even into the line with the ILO standards, because when you are asking the data with respect to the 1 year, there are certain problems. Number one problem is that the memory recall is not very much good. It is rather better into the CWS, that is the current weekly status. Many times people might not recall that whether they were employed or not, and therefore that many times the numbers might not be very much accurate. After that guys, it has been provided that when we talk about the nature of Indian economy, it has changed. The year-long reference period of usual status made more sense when the economy was predominantly agrarian. Fine, today it is not. So basically, into the current working status, we get better picture, but into the usual status, we don't get a better picture. Now guys, by taking the usual status into the account, how these two, both of them have been improved. Guys, they have been improved because guys, as the 2019-20 was not a very good year, find there were the economic hardships that were onto the people, there were the incomes which went down or they were lost. So therefore more people become distressed, and into that distress, just to support their families, they started to look for the work, and therefore this 40.1% has increased. And secondly guys, how it has been 4.8%, how the unemployment has went down? It has went down because the people, they took whatever work they were getting, because guys the economic hardships were there, and secondly guys, there might be some discrepancy into the data also, or not exactly we should use the word discrepancy, rather the data might not also be very much accurate, because guys here we have taken the usual status. Now guys, if we see the data onto the basis of not the usual status but the CWS status, then the different picture will be emerging here. Guys, just see here, you can see that when the same periodic labor force survey for 2019-20, we see onto the basis of CWS, we can see that the unemployment is actually 8.8%. Clear? When we see onto the US, it sees just 4.8%. So guys, how just tweaking the method can change the result onto the hand, you can see into this particular survey. So guys, such kind of things you need to keep into your mind whenever we are talking about the unemployment, whenever we are talking about such kind of aspects. So guys, I hope that this particular issue has been very much clear. Please do keep this into your mind, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now friends, this particular article has been taken up from the Mint newspaper, and it will be important with respect to the GS paper number 3, the reforms initiated by the India. Now guys, into this direction we can see that the Securities Exchange Board of India had come up with a very big reform for the mutual funds in India. Now first of all guys, what are the mutual funds? Mutual fund is a mechanism to invest the money into a diversified pool of assets. Suppose I have some kind of savings. For example, I have 1000 rupees. I want to invest this 1000 rupees into the equity market, but I don't have any kind of knowledge. What I can do? I can approach a asset management company with this 1000 rupees and will ask them, okay, you take my 1000 rupees and invest that particular money into the equity market. Now guys, these asset management companies, they are run by the professionals and they take money from thousands and lakhs of investors. After that, they had a lot of money, and because they have professional expertise, they try to identify those equity stocks, those debentures where the money can be invested, and at the end of the day, the return is given back to the investors. So guys, into this particular way, the mutual funds act. Now guys, into the recent few years, mutual fund has also become very much popular. Now guys, when we talk about the mutual fund, how you can basically buy the mutual fund, there are more than 40 plus mutual fund websites, okay, which are many a times being run by the asset management companies themselves. So from there you can buy the mutual fund. After that guys, there are the mutual fund distributor groups, fine, where you can buy. Then guys, the most common method nowadays is the fintechs. Okay, there are many of the apps like the Grow, Zerodha, etc. From there also you can buy the mutual fund. And then guys, the mutual fund utilities are there, okay, the firms which are specifically owned by the mutual fund companies, from there also you can buy. Now that is not very much important. So basically there are the many apps, many platforms from where you can buy the mutual fund. Now guys, the SEBI had provided that the registrar and the transfer agents, they need to come up with a common transaction platform, that is the CTP. Onto this common transaction platform, all the mutual funds, they could be bought, they could be sold. If you want to redeem your money, that redemption could be done, and even the non-financial transactions could also be carried onto this common transaction platform. So guys, it will help in mutual fund purchase, mutual fund redemption, non-financial transaction. For example, if you want to change your email address, phone number, as well as it will also provide the record which with respect to your transaction, with respect to the number of holdings that I am having. Now guys, according to the SEBI, this particular thing will be bringing a kind of a more simplification into the mutual fund buying process and the holding process. Now guys, at the same time, though consumer convenience will be there, but there is a kind of a threat also which has generated. What about the mutual fund applications, fintechs, which have now come? For example, the Grow app. Nobody will be going into that particular app and buying the mutual fund when all the services they can get onto the CTP. So this is a problem also. But guys, for the sake of investors' convenience, the SEBI had suggested this particular reform and even had given a deadline to the registrar and transfer agents that by the 31st of the December they need to come up with such kind of initiative. Now guys, when we are talking about it, there is some concerns also which have come. Number one, that whether this particular thing will actually be implemented or not. Now guys, it has been provided that what are actually the incentives to compensate these RTAs. Okay, the RTAs might just make up such kind of a platform which is not which is not catering to all the investors' demand, and guys, at the end of the day, even this particular initiative might not be very much helpful if it is not very much customized, if it is not very much investor friendly. So whether the RTA will be making such kind of platform, it is a kind of a thing which has to be seen. After that, guys, what about the cyber security concerns? See, when so large of information will be only onto a single platform, it becomes more susceptible to the cyber attacks, and into that capacity more robust cyber security standards are also to be taken up, and whether they will be taken up or not, it is also a kind of a thing. So guys, on to this particular direction, both the positives and the negatives are there. So guys, this is about this particular initiative. Please keep it into your mind, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article has been taken up from the Hindu newspaper, and it can be utilized as a case study into your GS paper number 2 related answers. Now guys, here we can see that the Puri, it had become the India's first city to provide quality drinking tap water. Okay, now guys, what has happened? Whenever we talk about the lives into the city, one important indicator comes, that is the ease of living. Now, in order to provide the ease of living, the government, particularly the Ministry of Urban Development, is taking up many of the initiatives. Even into the Amrut project, many of the basic amenities are being provided. However, when we talk about the basic amenities, drinking or the potable water is a very big problem. Into this particular direction, guys, just recently we have seen that the Jal Jeevan mission is there, which provides that by 2024, at least all the households, even into the rural areas, they need to be given a functional tap household connections. Fine. So water is a very big problem. Now guys, into this particular direction, the Puri has provided that in all the taps, drinking water will be provided, and that too 24 hours. So it is actually a step in towards the ease of living, and therefore it could be used as a case study. Moreover guys, when we talk about the clean drinking water, its a supply, it is also a very basic fundamental right provided under the purview of article number 21, right to life. So into this particular way, Odisha is actually again had acted as a template which is needed to be followed by the other states also. Moreover guys, the clean water is a parameter of a dignified life, so the right to dignity has also been provided. Moreover, when we talk about the clean drinking water, guys, there are the sustainable development goals, and into that sustainable development goal, there is the SDG goal number 6, which specifically provides for the clean water and sanitation. And as clean drinking water is being provided here by the Puri, SDG goal will be 6 will be fulfilled. Moreover, there is one more SDG goal, that is the goal number 12, which talks about the responsible consumption and production. When we talk about the responsible consumption and production, the principle of sustainability automatically comes here. Guys, when we talk about, see, the cities such as Puri, they are the tourist hotspot. Millions of tourists, they are coming here every year, and as they want the water, they are carrying that plastic water bottles, and guys, it is generating a lot of plastic. Guys, here we can see that if specifically into the city of Puri, more than 400 metric tons of plastic waste is being generated. Now guys, as into all the taps, drinking water will be provided, the tourist can drink them, and therefore the plastic waste which is being generated, it will also get reduced. So into this particular direction, the Odisha government had done a kind of a remarkable job, and other governments also need to look towards this thing. So guys, you can utilize it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article again taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it becomes important under the GS paper number 2, the steps taken by the government for the vulnerable sections of the society. Now, when we talk about the vulnerable sections, guys, the transgender are one of the people who have faced much of the exploitations, and their vulnerabilities had been exaggerated also. Now, guys, when we talk about the transgenders, first of all, in 2014, there was the NALSA versus Union of India judgment, and into this particular judgment, the transgenders, they were identified as the third genders, and the states were given a responsibility that they need to identify for the welfare of the third genders, and they need to provide them a kind of equity in all the spheres of the life that was provided. But even a basic thing has not been provided to the transgenders, that is the separate toilets, and most of the times they have to use the toilets which are either for the male or for the female. Most of the times they use the male toilets, and there it has been seen that they are more prone to the sexual assault, the physical assault, etc. Into this particular capacity, guys, a petition was made into the Delhi High Court, and the Delhi High Court had issued the notice to the government that the separate toilets for the transgenders are needed to be established. Now guys, when we talk about the separate toilets for the transgender, it might look as a very small thing, but guys, it is a very big step towards the recognition of the transgender people, that they are equal into the society. Moreover guys, when we talk about the transgender, when they are basically being forced to use the toilet, a very big violation of a fundamental right is also there, that is the right to privacy. It got violated, and as they are prone to abuse, their article number 21, right to life, is also being endangered. Now guys, when we talk about providing the separate toilets for the transgender people, into this particular direction there are certain cities such as the Mysore, Bhopal and Ludhiana which have done very good work, and they had started to provide this facility. Moreover guys, on this particular aspect will also be helpful in meeting our other sustainable developmental goals also. For example, there is the sustainable development goal number 5, where we talk about the gender equality. Now the gender equality most of the time has been seen in terms of male and female, but there are the third genders also. This is to be recognized here. Then guys, there is the reduced inequalities which have been talked about into the sustainable developmental goal number 10. Now again, it is an inequality because the male have toilet, female have toilet, but the third genders, the transgender, they don't have it. So into this particular direction guys, it is a symbolic step which is important, and you can utilize it as a case study into your GS paper number 4 ethics answers as GS paper number 2. So that is all, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article, here we have clubbed the two articles, one from the editorial section of the Hindu newspaper and the other article again is from the Hindu newspaper. Guys, it talks about the recent disaster that has happened into the Himachal Pradesh, where a landslide occurred into the Kinnaur, and by that landslide a bridge was destroyed, 9 people were killed, and basically it is a kind of a thing which even is not very much unique. Every year it happens. So guys, there are some systemic problems which are to be identified as urgently as possible. Now guys, when we talk about this landslip into the Kinnaur, it points to a bigger fragility into the ecology of the Himalayan states, and here the Himachal Pradesh is not just one example. Even the neighbor of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, it is also prone to such kind of a destruction. A kind of an irreversible decline has begun into the Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, and this particular irreversible decline might be leading to further losses into the ecology. Frequent landslides will be there, and this particular thing will become a kind of a new norm. Now guys, the biggest reason into this particular direction is unplanned development into this particular region, and this unplanned development is not taking into the account whether the region can hold such kind of development or not. Moreover guys, the development many a times is also being wrapped into the fancy words. For example, into the Himachal Pradesh, there is the concept of the green power. Now the green power means that into the Himachal Pradesh, to meet the electricity demands, the hydroelectricity will be exploited. Guys, one of the parliamentary standing committee onto the energy, it has provided in 2018 and 19 that state could double its existing hydropower potential. Right now it is more than 10,500 megawatt through the hydropower. It could be doubled, and therefore large number of dams are to be constructed. Now guys, when we talk about the dam construction, it is a very problematic things into the ecologically fragile states such as the Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Number one, because of that, large concretization is to be done. Guys, concretization many a times lead to the urban heat island effect, and due to the urban heat island effect, we see the temperature rises, and because of that, the melting of the glaciers, it becomes very much fast. And guys, into that particular capacity, the events such as the Uttarakhand flood, that is the glacial lake outburst flood that we have seen a few months back, it could happen. So guys, number one, due to the urban heat island effect that could be created by the concretization, dams are not very much good. Secondly guys, when we talk about the dam, it also gives rise to the seismicity. Okay guys, the dams, they are very big reservoirs, they hold so much of the water, and because of that they could ignite the seismic waves, and because of that seismic waves, landslides could occur, and even the earthquake, man-made earthquakes can also come. Then guys, the third issue is this, that whenever the digging and all such kind of things are being carried for the dam building, it displaces much of the flora and fauna. So therefore the dam building is not a very desirable thing. But guys, over and over the government proposes it, sometimes as a kind of a green energy, sometimes it is a sustainable energy, but the kind of a long-term sustainability is not being taken up into the account. Moreover guys, as we talk about the present incident had happened into the Kinnaur, guys, Kinnaur Kinnaur specifically is at the focus point for all such kind of development projects that are taken, because guys, it is it is the area where the glacially fed Satluj Valley is there, and this Satluj Valley actually has been provided that it has a huge potential for the hydroelectricity. Now guys, if such kind of a mad construction and development is not stopped, such kind of flash floods, landslides, cloudbursts will be continuing to happen. Moreover guys, what has happened recently, a study has been published, that is the mitigation or myth, and into this particular study it has been provided that the construction activities that had happened for the hydropower project, it had impacted the existing land use, it had impacted the forest biodiversity, and had fragmented the forest landscape. Moreover, whenever these projects are going on, with this project, a kind of an element of compensatory afforestation also comes. The trees that you have uprooted in the lieu, you need to plant the new trees. Now the intention is very much good, but guys, onto the ground, this compensatory afforestation has not given any result. Why? Because number one, the surviving rate of the saplings which are being planted, it is very much less. Only 10% of the plants they survive. Secondly guys, many times the plants which are basically planted here, they are exotic kind of species, and because of that the interspecies conflict also begins, and therefore it is not good for the ecology. Then guys, the infringement onto the local land use, as well as the damage which comes with this kind of destruction, as we had seen that the recent landslide has happened. So guys, therefore it has been provided that more tunneling, more development is not desirable into these kind of regions. Moreover, into this development, many a times the use of dynamite is also there for the blasting of these mountains. And guys, though it has been provided that the dynamite used into the mountainous region needs to be very much regulated, but onto the ground we see that no regulation is there, no testing of the terrain is there, just blindly they are using the dynamite, and many times it leads to such kind of landslides and other catastrophic events. So guys, this land use change has caused this present disaster. So in a way we call it as a natural disaster, but at the end of the day it has been an anthropogenic disaster, the man-made disaster. So guys, such an understanding, it will be highly important for your GS paper number 3, where the disaster management has specifically been provided. So please do utilize it. So guys, that is all about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article, it talks about the new emigration bill that is going to be introduced into the parliament. We will see that what this emigration bill is, what purpose it solves. Guys, it can be important for our GS paper number 2, where the topic of diaspora has been mentioned. Now guys, first of all, we will be talking about the very basic kind of things. Guys, the Ministry of External Affairs, it is planning to propose the Emigration Bill 2021 into the Parliament. Now guys, this particular legislation will replace the Emigration Act of 1983, which actually provided much of the framework for the non-resident Indians. Now guys, when we talk about this Emigration Act of 1983, it actually is applicable to all those countries wherein substantial quantity Indian diaspora is living. And guys, into this particular direction, this 1983 Act, it outlines the obligation for the agents, that the agents which are taking the migrants out, they need to carry the due diligence. After that guys, the perspectives of the employers, whether they are financially sound, whether they follow the labor standards, or so they are to be seen here. Then guys, it also provides that it also establishes for a government review of the worker travel as well as the employment documents, and it is applicable to 18 countries mainly which are into the West Asia as well as Southeast Asia. Now this particular legislation will be replaced by this Immigration Bill of 2021. So basic thing. Now guys, first of all, this updation is very much needed. Why? Because guys, 1983 is a very long time. We are now in 2021. Many of the labor conventions had come. Many of the systems have changed. So into this particular direction, this particular issue is to be taken up. Moreover guys, we have seen that many a times the migrants of India, particularly who are going into the Gulf, they have been exploited. For example, many a times they are recruited on some other conditions of work, but when they reach there are some different conditions of work which are there. Moreover guys, contracted substitution is there. Many a times their passports, they are kept and they are not given to them. Moreover, basic dignities of life are not given to the migrants into the Gulf countries. So for all that particular thing, this particular new bill, it becomes very much important. Now guys, it is good, and into this particular direction, the significance we can see that first of all, it provides for the new immigration policy division, and by this new immigration policy division, the help desk welfare committees will be recruited, and these welfare committees will be working that how the migrants who are going out, their well-being can be assured. So this is one thing. Then guys, the second thing what has happened, it also shows a change in government's attitude. See, in 1970s we used to call the NRIs as the non-required Indians. It was said that they are basically leading to the brain drain, but now the perception has been changed. We have believed that when the brain drain which had happened, it can be converted into the brain gain. Now they are sending the remittances, so actually at the end of the day, they are the India's brand ambassadors also. So this particular mindset will be incorporated by this particular new policy. Then guys, the next thing that has been provided here is that right now, as per the World Migration Report, India is the largest country of origin for the international migrants. Approximately 30 million migrants are being generated from the India in 2017. Moreover, India is also the largest recipient of the remittances that these migrants are sending. So for that, a kind of an enabling framework is needed. Moreover guys, it has been seen that the 1983 Act, it has failed to address large number of issues. Moreover guys, the geopolitics into the Gulf has now been changed, and that thing has not been incorporated into the 1983 Act. So therefore, the new Act is needed. Moreover, when we talk about the sustainable developmental goals, guys, into the sustainable developmental goals, the welfare of the migration is an idea that is to be taken up, and therefore this new act will also be helping us to reach the UN sustainable developmental goals, because an enabling framework for the migrants will be brought out. Then guys, though all these things are good, but at the same time there are certain drawbacks also into the new migration bill that is being introduced. Number one draw out here that is that it lacks a human right framework. Specifically, it is not talking about the protection of the human rights, and most of the times guys, in countries into the Gulf, the human right violation by the system of kafala, where a kind of a bonded labor is followed, we have seen. So such kind of things also needed to be taken into the account. Then guys, secondly, there are certain provisions where the workers could be punished if they had violated any of the bill's provisions when they had not went through a kind of a registered broker. But most of the times guys, you need to understand this thing that the migrants who are going into particularly the Gulf, they are not very much educated, and they are going for most of the times for the manual labor work. Whether they can know that which broker is registered, which is not registered, they cannot do this thing, and the penalty is being imposed onto these migrants, 50,000 rupees. Okay, so this is a kind of a thing which is not very much humane. Then guys, the next, it has been provided that the bill provides that the manpower agencies, the agents, they can charge the fees from the workers. Now this particular provision is going against the 181 convention of the ILO. Now 181 convention of ILO, it provides that if any kind of charges are to be taken, then they are to be taken up from the employers and not from the workers. But into this particular direction, we have put an obligation onto the workers. So this particular issue is there. Then guys, the next issue that comes here is that it does not talks properly onto the gender dimension. Now when we talk about the gender dimension guys, most of the times women migrants, they are not being provided the work contracts on par with the male. They are not being provided the avenues of work also onto the par of the males. So that thing has not been counted here. Then guys, the next thing that comes into this particular direction is that it provides a very limited space for the worker representation, or the civil society's engagement has been very much less. So these are the points onto which this particular bill has faltered. So guys, both the things are there, good things as well as bad things, and into that capacity, what are the positives, what are the negatives, you need to keep it into your mind, particularly because the diaspora as a specific topic has been mentioned into the GS paper number 2. So guys, that is all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article, here again we have clubbed the two articles. Both are talking about the prospects of India into the Afghanistan. So therefore, into the GS paper number 2, under the topic related to the IR, it will be an important topic. Now Guys, we have seen into the couple of articles recently that into the Afghanistan USA is making an exit, and as the USA is making an exit, the Taliban is getting proportionately more and more stronger, and as by the end of the August the pullout of the USA will be completed, it is believed that the Taliban might capture even more substantial territories into the Afghanistan. And if we talk today, as of today, more than 35% of the territories into the Afghanistan, it has been captured already by the Taliban. Now, whenever we talk about the Taliban, guys, we have a fear that Taliban, as it had earlier ruled the Afghanistan in 1996 to 2001, that particular rule was very much brutal. If the similar kind of Taliban again comes here, then guys, the spillover effect onto the India will be very much big. Now guys, it has been provided that here India needs to rightfully examine the prospects that it is having in Afghanistan. Guys, if we start the ground with the Afghanistan, then guys, traditionally India has historically enjoyed the good ties with the Afghanistan, because in 1950 itself we have signed the treaty of friendship with the Afghanistan, and the relations went good. Though in 1996 to 2001 it was not good because the Taliban occupied the power, but guys, as soon as Taliban was ousted in 2001, again we started to cultivate the good relations with the Afghanistan. And guys, as of today, more than $3 billion of aid have been given to the Afghanistan. Many of the infrastructure projects have been completed into the Afghanistan, including the Zaranj Dileram Road, Salma Dam, Haji Kak mine has been developed, and at the same time, guys, our trust with the Afghanistan has also increased, the trust level between the two governments. Now, into this particular capacity, guys, when we talk about the exit of the US from the Taliban, guys, US had changed a kind of their approach into the foreign policy. Now, guys, basically defeating the Taliban and national building, they were the part of the neo-conservative ideological project that was taken by the USA. Now, this neo-conservative ideological project, they believed that they will be bringing the stability into this region, but now they are more being driven by the realism, and this realism shows to the USA that they had not achieved substantial into the Afghanistan, and rather than the Afghanistan, they need to focus more onto the Indo-Pacific, more onto the China. There they need to divert their energy, and by this particular realism they are withdrawing. But India cannot simply withdraw, because Afghanistan is number one our neighbor. Secondly, guys, we are still a continental power, and into that particular direction, securing the stability into the neighborhood is very much important. So guys, India needs to explore some of the things which are there. Number one, we need to explore talking with the Taliban. Now guys, when we talk about that whether we should talk with the Taliban or not, into this particular direction, guys, India had now directly given a hint that okay, we are willing to talk with the Taliban. Even into the Afghan peace process, we had recognized the Taliban as a stakeholder. So guys, number one, India's approach with respect to Taliban is changing, but still we are not coming very much open in talking with the Taliban. So guys, it has been said that such kind of thing is now to be dropped, and openly we need to consider that how Taliban can be negotiated. But when we talk about the Taliban, guys, it has been provided that within the Taliban there is the Haqqani network that India should not overlook. India should need to consider the Haqqani network also, because guys, the Haqqani network plays a very important role there, so it also needed to be considered. Then guys, it has also been provided that India should not urgently, basically India should not step away from the Afghanistan. Rather, India need to train the Afghan forces. They need to be provided the military hardware, intelligence, logistical support, financial support. Why? Because if they will be more strong, if they will be giving more of a fight to the Taliban will be kept into the check. And the moment the Afghan forces will lose, Taliban will become so powerful that it will not be negotiating at all with the India. So guys, supporting the Afghan forces is very much needed so that they act as a counterweight to the Taliban. So onto both the aspects we need to work. Then guys, thirdly, it has been provided that when we talk about the bringing stability into the Afghanistan, we need to converge with the regional powers also. And when the convergence with the regional power is there, guys, there are three countries particularly, that is the China, Russia and Iran, that are to be included. Now guys, all these three, they are facing a kind of a very big threat from the Afghanistan. First of all, Russia, first of all China. Guys, China's Xinjiang region is infested with the terrorism, and China believes that in Afghanistan, if the instability will come, then the spillover effect will come into the Xinjiang region, and Uyghur Muslims which are there into the Xinjiang region, they will get a sympathy from the Afghanistan, and therefore the internal security in China will be compromised. Number one. Number two, guys, Russia wants that its former Russia wants that the countries which were earlier the part of the former USSR, into that stability needs to be there. Into particularly Central Asia, Russia wants that the stability is to be there, because heavily sent into the Central Asia Russia had invested, and if Afghanistan will not be stable, then guys that particular region's stability cannot be secured. So therefore, the apart from China, the Russia is also having various stakes. Then guys, when we talk about the Iran, now the Iran is particularly a Shia dominated country, and the Taliban, they are the Sunni Deobandis, and the Sunni Deobandis and Shias, they have a kind of a big ideological clash, and into that capacity Iran also have a considerable stake into the Afghanistan and India. We always talk about the region security and our neighborhood. So guys, all the three countries along with the India, they are having a similar threats, so we need to take them into the confidence, and if we take into them confidence, then guys all of them can provide the distinct advantage. For example, Russia has actually developed much of the talks with the Taliban, much of a relationship has been cultivated by the Russia with the Taliban, so we can leverage that particular thing by the help of Russia. Then guys, when we talk about the Iran actually has a very big border with the Afghanistan, so with respect to providing the connectivity with the Afghanistan, Iran can help us. And then guys, when we talk about the China can provide the logistical help. In terms of finance, China can provide the help. So all of them can provide a distinct helps, and at the same time all of these three are having a distinct disadvantage if Taliban becomes very much powerful and instability comes. So guys, on to this particular aspect also, India should evaluate its options into the Afghanistan. So guys, all these are the things that are needed to be carried, and guys, if any particular question is coming on to this particular line, and most probably it will be, so you need to keep these dimensions into your mind. So that is all about this article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article again taken from the Hindu newspaper, and guys, it is talking about the Kitex controversy that has happened into the Kerala. Guys, what has happened? The Kitex, it gave the decision that it will be going out of the state of Kerala, though the Kitex also said that significantly big investment it will also be carrying into the Kerala. But guys, the moment Kitex decided to go out of the Kerala, their offices were raided, they were put into the enforcement, and such kind of harassment was there. And guys, it has been said that such mindset of the Indian bureaucracy and Indian government is problematic, and these things need to be get rid of, because it is a colonial mindset. So guys, this is just one line idea that has been given into this particular article. Apart from this, nothing very much substantial substance is there, fine, which you can directly utilize it. However guys, if you have time in your leisure, if you want, you can read it, but guys, with respect to the UPSC, much direct substance is not there. So that is all just about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article talks about the situation of the national monuments right now. Fine guys, we are into the pandemic. Consequently, the lockdowns have been there, which have been extended, and guys, because of this particular thing, the monuments, the visitors numbers have been very much reduced, and the visitors are going down into the monuments. The revenues which these monuments are earning, it is also very much low. And guys, as the revenue will be very much low, the upkeep of these monuments will be suffered, and as the upkeep of these monuments will be suffered, already guys, we see that the preservation of the historical monuments has not been good, and guys, severely it will again be impacted. Now guys, there is specifically the Parliamentary Standing Committee onto the Transport, Tourism and Culture that has been initiated, which had given some of the suggestions that how right now, as the revenue is very much low into these monuments, what we could do. Number one guys, the how much revenue was there last year, how much revenue is there is this year, you don't need to go into such kind of numbers, clearly ignore it. Now there are certain suggestions which could be given, that how our monuments could be given, provided a consistent stream of finance so that they can look onto their upkeep. Number one guys, the Parliamentary Standing Committee had provided that pay as you wish model needs to be implemented on all the monuments. Pay as you wish. Now there is a minimum ticket that you need to purchase. After that, if you want to give something more, you should also give. Such kind of initiatives need to be there, where the citizens need to be motivated that they need to contribute into the monuments upkeep, because at the end of the day it is a direct contribution towards the nation. Then guys, the donation drives are to be taken up. Then guys, with the corporate social responsibility, now the CSR has been provided under the section number 135 of the Companies Act. So with the help of CSR, the corporates are needed to be persuaded that they adopt some of the monuments and work for their upkeep. Then guys, the private sector participation is also needed to be involved into the upkeep, into the cleaning, into the conservation, etc. We need to involve them. And then guys, it has been provided that the culture ministry's budget is to be increased, so that these particular monuments upkeep can be kept into the times when the revenues has actually been very much down. So guys, these are some of the urgent steps that are to be taken up. Guys, this particular article where it could be important for our GS paper number 1 as well as the GS paper number 2. So that is all about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article, it has just mentioned that when we talk about the Clean Ganga Fund, the UP is getting one of the biggest chunk. Now guys, into this entire article, how much money they are getting, it has been talked about. We don't need to go into that particular kind of details. However guys, we need to see it into the light of one more article that we have just seen, I think 2-3 days back. That is the microplastic pollution into the Ganga that has been there. And when we talk about the microplastic pollution into the Ganga, guys, we there discussed the Namami Ganga program, which was a 20,000 crore rupees program started in 2014 by the Ministry of Jal Shakti to clean the Ganga. Guys, the UP is particularly getting so much of the funding, but guys, still the microplastic pollution into the UP, particularly in Varanasi, is very much alarming. So guys, into the GS paper number 2, we talk about the evaluation of the government schemes, and into the evaluation of government scheme, whether the Namami Ganga is being implemented properly despite of being given so much of funds, it is to be seen, and here we can see it as a kind of a case study. Moreover guys, when we talk about the Namami Ganga project, it is being implemented by the National Mission for Clean Ganga, and there are the state counterparts, that is the state program management groups, they are implementing it. Moreover guys, there are specific pillars of the Clean Ganga Namami Ganga project, that is the sewage treatment infrastructure, riverfront development, biodiversity and afforestation, and public awareness. But even after so much of the funding, the whether the development has not been there or not is not very much clear. So that is just about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article talks about the new crisis that had begun into the Tunisia. Now first of all, if we see the location of the Tunisia, guys, we can see that Tunisia is a country into the Africa. Towards the northern side of Africa, we can find it. This is the Tunisia. Fine. The neighbors are the Algeria and the Libya. Then guys, here we can see that there's a Mediterranean Sea. Okay, the Morocco, Spain, France, Italy, Greece and Turkey, their relative position are also here. Now when we talk about Tunisia, guys, Tunisia was also the seat of the Arab Spring. And guys, Arab Spring was a movement which wanted that the dictatorships needed to be removed and more representative systems of the government needed to be established, particularly in the countries around the Africa as well as the West Asia. Now guys, the Tunisian president, fine, he had sacked the government, and it is being called as an act of coup. Now, what has happened, guys? The Tunisian president, he was seeing, or the government in the Tunisia, it was seeing a large number of protests due to the economic crisis which are there. The handling of COVID-19 pandemic has not been very much good, and the showdowns were being carried into the Tunisia. Now guys, into this particular direction, the Tunisian president, that is the Kais Saied, he had ousted the prime minister. It had suspended the legislature or the parliament for the next 30 days, and this particular act had bring the Tunisian democracy into a kind of a state of crisis. So guys, the parliament has been closed for 30 days. Moreover guys, the other kind of important ministers such as the Minister of Defense, etc. has also been ousted. Now the reason given by the president is that there was a kind of a huge disruption that was coming, and because of that disruption the security and sovereignty of the country was endangered, and therefore all such kind of thing has happened. Now guys, apart from this, the internal rivalries that are happening there, you don't need to go into it. Moreover guys, as this particular matter will be unfolding, more of the dimensions will be coming, and that we will be covering into one newspaper analysis. So just that's it for the time being that you need to see here. Fine, I hope that guys you have understood it. So that is all for the today's newspaper analysis. Guys, I believe that you are finding this initiative fruitful. Thank you so much.